Hello, welcome to the Mandela Effect equals knowledge. My name is Dale DuFay. We're on Google Earth here. I'm going to use this as a backdrop during this video, but I want to show time zones and how the Earth is divided into 24. I don't know why I said 25. 24 equal, time zones in a sense. But of course, every nation, the time zones are real irregular. It depends on the independent nations and governments and states and whatnot. I live in Michigan, so I'm on the southwest Michigan, and I'm on the very extreme west end of the Eastern time zone. And I used to live in Chicago, which is only like 160 miles away from where I'm at now, and that's the Central time zone. So it's always in the extreme eastern side of the Central time zone because the time zones span hundreds of miles. Here all the way from New York to, Southwest Michigan. Indiana, for example, most of that's in the Central time zone. So it's up to the states and locations, but generally the Earth is divided by 24 because of the 24 hours each Earth is calibrated for. One full revolution equals 24 hours. That's where we get our clock and time. Each Earth is calibrated for its 24-hour day. So if the Earth's bigger, it's going to be the same thing. It doesn't matter what size the Earth is. It's going to be divided into 24. So let me show you a picture of this time zone. Let's go over this time zone here. Of course, it's separated by color, but here's the actual lines here, the 24 spaces. And then we have the prime meridian here. Here they call it the Greenwich meridian, but it usually goes through Manchester, England. That's where the prime meridian was established. Now, the prime meridian could be anywhere on any planet. Like I used to wonder, like in Star Trek, for example, were able to get coordinates on planets, but how were they able to establish a prime meridian? This was done by human beings. This meridian was created by the British, who owned the seas. They needed to create this division in order to navigate the seas. So the prime meridian is here, and that's why. Created by humans. And it's right in the center of this time space here. So keep in mind that this is all done by humans. Human beings invented time because of our finite existence. And of course, there's an importance to time, in a lot of ways, of course. But the Mandela Effect's revealing that time is irrelevant. And of course, they spread everything out to flatten it out onto this map. So everything up here is wider than it really is. Same with the southern part. Everything's, in the center is very little that changed, from what it is originally. But they have it all obviously spread out. The English also did this for navigation reasons. But everything's exaggerated, east and west, on the extremes, the northern extreme and southern extreme. Here I still can't get over how Chile goes all the way down to the southern tip of South America. But I'm going to talk about South America in this video. See how it's in the extreme west of South America, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, and whatever this country is. I don't know. I can't say it offhand because those things vary. I remember Colombia being on the very top of South America, and then the Isthmus of Panama going straight north and south, and the Americas being lined up. So what does that tell us? Well, in those realities, the one I recall where this portion of my soul originated, we have to keep in mind those realities are still there. Because if anything happened to those realities, it would have affected these realities. And these realities are going on like every day, like we recall. But the thing is we have to keep in mind that time. This is all invented by humans, but it does have an impact on us because obviously, the Earth goes around the sun and rotates off its axis, and creates night and day. So the time in that reference is this. I mean, it's all part of life. Let's face it. But the fact that human beings invented time and calibrated it for each Earth, regardless of what size, there's Earths and realities where the time is 50% slower. We know that. We originated from there. I know I did. And the time is 50% faster here simply because the Earth is smaller. And I've done many videos about that. It's really interesting. The Earths, it's important to realize they all, regardless of their size and their location in the Milky Way galaxy, they all rotate off the axis at the same speed. So the bigger the Earth, the longer the days. It's as simple as that. But they all still have these time zones. They all still have the prime meridian and the anti-prime meridian. So it's, I don't, again, it's always the same in every Earth. Every reality, this is the same. The meridian is off Manchester, or like they said here, Greenwich, United Kingdom. But the United Kingdom varies in realities too. Sometimes it orientates this way, I recall, and straight up and down in others, and then here it kind of goes this way. But regardless, the prime meridian is always the same spot, because regardless of the orientation of England, who invented or established the prime meridian, it doesn't matter. It's always right in this general same area is what I'm getting at. So in all realities, the time zones are identical. So that's interesting to keep that in mind. But except for, the time zones in general are identical. This 24-hour division is identical. Now, of course, these are going to vary in reality. See how Canada, even, parts of northern Canada here should be in the Pacific time zone, but they're not. They choose to keep the central time zone, or mountain time zone. So that's, so that they don't follow the straight lines going, the longitude and latitude. But anyway, that's going to vary. And the real thing that's going to vary is, we know, like here, Peru and Colombia and Ecuador are in the Eastern time zone. And that's fascinating when you think about it, because many of us recall it being in the Pacific time zone, because Peru is over here, 4 time zones away, or 1, 2, 3 time zones away. They're in the 4th, Eastern, Central, Mountain, Pacific. So there's realities where residents in Peru, Colombia, and Ecuador live in the Pacific time zone. So that brings up an interesting question. You got to get philosophical here. Now, let me see if I got another picture. This is that hammer that they found in England. It's dated to be 150 million years old. So what's that all about? But anyway, that's not the part of the subject. Here, there's a globe version. We could see Colombia, Ecuador, and I don't want to guess that country, and Peru in the Eastern time zone. And we know it's in the Pacific time zone too. So again, that brings up a philosophical question. And it's something. Now here's something I always wondered about South America. I always thought, my God, why isn't this a world power? It's got all the resources you could imagine, everything. In Peru, they have all the minerals, assets are in this country, including the Amazon basin, all the rich minerals and material and lumber and everything. It's just an incredible country. I always thought it was. I was always interested in the Inca and the Maya and all this. Studied all that extensively. I was always very interested in it, but yet I was always very confused of why those civilizations perished, why this country or continent of South America, at least one of the countries within it, isn't a superpower, like the United States or Russia or China. But they're not. It's always, like I said, even the ancient great civilizations down there are just totally disappeared. I always wondered what that was all about. Why do they have to always take, siestas and naps? I always wondered about that. Why do they like that? You know, and this again, the Mandela effect is what's so great about the Mandela effect is that it always, in my case anyway, has answered everything I have ever wondered about. And this is another one. Now I know why there's no country in South America, in this tremendous continent, that even gets to enjoy the equator, everything about it. Rainforest, it's just a magnificent continent. But yet, it, politically, it's nothing. And again, I've always wondered that. And here we know why now. We totally can understand why. Because even though we're in these different realities, and each reality is fiercely independent from all the other realities, to the point where we're in every reality and we don't even realize it. But yet, subconsciously, we're connected to every reality, because every reality has a replica version of you that is sharing your soul. So our soul is splintered and fractured, and each portion is fiercely independent. But yet they do exactly the same thing you do, because we're constantly connected. The Mandela Effect's proving this, that we have a fractured and splintered soul, sorry, a fractured and splintered soul, and each portion is independent, but constantly connected with every other portion of your soul at all times, constantly. But it's, the reason we don't are oblivious to that is because it's on a subconscious level. So that's important, and it's very obvious. Mandela Effect showing us that. That's why we have to have REM sleep. Uh, you know, they don't understand why we need REM sleep and why it's so essential. And if we don't obtain it, everything you just break down. We know why we get REM sleep, because that's the only time that your soul portions are all connected, synchronized in that unconscious state. And it's very essential, obviously. That's why we need sleep. That's why we need REM sleep. But these people down here, they seem to, again, it's a wonderful nation with wonderful people. I'm proud to be a Native American myself, quite a bit. Cherokee, mostly from Kentucky and Tennessee area. But why can't they see? I mean, I don't want to say they can't get it together, because obviously they do. But I'm just saying in general, why isn't this, you know, why can't they get? See, I don't want to say anything because it would be offending or anything, so I got to watch what I say. But the fact is the people who live. Let's just use Peru as an example. Why can't that? they I don't know. Anyway, but we know why. I'm kind of trying to stop. I'm actually looking for words. But the fact is we know that people in Peru have realities in well, obviously here in the Eastern time zone, and we know they have realities in the Central time zone, and we know they have realities in the Mountain time zone, and we know they have realities in the Pacific time zone. And the reason I know, because I recall, of course, the Americas lined up, and the west coast of South America lining up with the west coast of North America, an isthmus of Panama and Central America here being straight up and down. Yes, along with Mexico was straight up and down, except for the Yucatan were curved up. But the Americas were lined up. But I also remember being in a reality a few years back where South America was only off about 600 miles. It was lined up about here. It was in the mountain time zone. Peru it is in that reality. So we know there, because the Earth's varying in size, and they grow as they age, and the northern hemisphere twisting eastward as they grow and age, the Americas will eventually line up. So we know there's Earths where it's, off, way off like this, and we know there's Earths where it's a little more straighter. I know that one where the Peru is in the central time zone, that reality, the Isthmus of Panama was straight east and west. It didn't have this kink in it. And the canal, therefore the Panama Canal went straight north and south. So that Peru in that reality was in the central time zone. So we know by experiencing the Mandela effect that, that there's 4 different time zones that South America's in. That's amazing. That would explain a lot of things, because again, we have to go back to the fact that every portion of your soul is connected, even though we're oblivious to it. It's connected constantly, quantumly, that quantum entanglement, regardless of what time zone you're in. But could you, this is important. This is really philosophical. It just it explains so many things. For again, because the British invented the prime meridian and did the division 24. It's the same in every reality, and Britain for the most part is going to be right where the prime meridian is, and that's where the time, I guess on the left side it's early time, and the right side it's later time. So they invented that, and it's pretty much always in the same geographical area. Look how far north it is. Isn't that crazy? It's almost, right there's the pole, the axis pole, where the Earth spins. It's not really the magnetic pole, but it's not far from that. It's crazy, because there's no, as this dwarf Earth ages, this whole upper area is going to separate considerably, and even maybe develop a continent eventually, called Antarctica. But what I'm getting at is the Americas, because of that, the North America is going to be the same time zone in every reality. It doesn't seem to move that much, like the South America is. Of course, it's not moving. It's slowly moving. It's so infinitesimal, we don't even realize it in a lifetime. It would take dozens of lifetimes to realize that the Earth is growing, and this is northern hemisphere is twisting eastward, and the Americas lining up over time. We would never recognize that. But by experiencing the Mandela effect, we know there's different time zones that these human souls are experiencing. They're oblivious to it. Like, I know Brian Forster lives in Peru, and I really love his work, because he's, obviously in that camp where it's quite obvious that human beings have been on this earth for who knows how long, way more than they're saying. But anyway, he lives down there, so therefore he's experiencing the same thing. I wonder what it's like for him. I wonder if he's tired all the time. I wonder if he has to take naps. It's amazing. Think about it. I would love to ask him. But nobody's going to want to listen to you. How do you tell somebody that, hey, you have multiple realities throughout the Milky Way galaxy, and some of them are on super Earths? How do you tell somebody that? How do you tell them that you have realities that are in different time zones? And that would explain why you always need naps and are always tired, and it's hard to achieve REM sleep, because these people, human beings in South America, obviously these versions are going to get to bed at night a lot sooner than their other ones out here. So maybe, that's why they're going to bed early, because there are other realities that are sharing their soul and constantly connected, even though we're oblivious, are already in bed. Because it's amazing that it just amazes me that Peru is in the Eastern time zone. It's just amazing. Like, again, when it was only 600 miles or so off in the other reality, it was in the Central time zone. So we know that there's no doubt some in the Pacific. I haven't witnessed that. I may have shifted in that reality, but was unaware of it. I may have been shifting for quite a while before I was aware of it. This quantum shifting. But look at how, this Earth is so small. You can really only get one continent on the face at a time. You can almost get the Americas, but not quite. On the super Earths, you can see both North America, the northern ice cap, and South America and the southern ice cap on the Antarctica. You can see the whole thing on the face. But here you can barely catch it, both Americas. You can only get Africa. Africa seems to always be in the same time zones in every reality, but this area has always, you know, it hasn't been really geopolitically powerful either. But that's because early on it was, divided up and colonized and things like that. So it was always never going to be a power. But of course, Great Britain was early on, and they still are. So that's interesting. So Africa is really, of course, it's further, it's stretched more. As there's more space in the Mediterranean Sea. We know that in some realities. But generally, these, Europe, for the most parts, and Africa and the Middle East and Asia and India and all of them are all in the same pretty much time zones in every reality. Again, this divided up by 24. Now we know it's New Zealand. It's possible. I know I'm in a reality where New Zealand's at the 10 o'clock position over here, because some people remember that in their original reality where their soul portions originated from. And we know we're there too. So New Zealand could be experiencing stuff like that as well, as far as, wow, we're, not seeming to get enough sleep and things like that. And another thing I always wonder about is the islanders. That's a whole nother video right there. Because in some realities, the islanders are on islands because there's so many of them on these Orion dwarfers. Tens of thousands of islands on these. You can count 18,000 without even trying. And that's remarkable because islands are somewhat of a commodity on the super Earths. So if these islands are mostly inhabited, these thousands and tens of thousands of islands are inhabited, so you have many, many islanders. But on the super Earths, in realities which they share, which we all share, and they're there too, they couldn't be on islands because they don't even exist. Like, for example, this island does not exist on all the super Earths, and some of the dwarfers. I don't have this. I was surprised to see this island. It's like, and it's a big island, Henain, and this peninsula doesn't exist in some realities. But again, what happened? It must be strange. Of course, they're oblivious to it. Again, how would they know? But some of their realities, they live on the mainland, and other realities, they're on the island. So that must be quite strange. Of course, they're oblivious to it, but they might be, things that are happening in their life that they can't explain. Again, this quantum entanglement is revealing everything. Even paranormal activity can be better understood when you realize that there's this quantum entanglement, and that our soul and our spirit is incredibly powerful and way more than we could have ever imagined it is. And the Mandela Effect's revealing all this. It's changing philosophy. It's totally. Because again, it explains so much about this great continent down here that has every mineral resource imaginable. But yet, I guess I can't try to figure out what without being offensive. Again, there's all races down here, and I'm proud to be a Native American. But it explains why basically overall these people can't get it together. Okay, there I said it. But I don't know, meant no offense whatsoever. No offense intended at all. But there you go. We know why. I mean, it has to be, of course, if they have realities in every time zone, it's going to help blend their lives, whatever replica version is in whatever time zone. So it's sort of blends probably to some extent, but overall it's got to have an effect on their life. Totally, it has to. Really think about it, because again, I'm fortunate to live in this area off that invented, meridian line and time zone that's invented, of course, by humans, but it's always going to be generally in the same, so I'm never going to experience that. Uh, you know, there has to be people in South America that are experiencing the Mandela effect. I would love to talk to them and see how their life is and and again, like Brian Forster. This is one area in Peru that gets me when I first started noticing or shifting into different realities on different Earths. That Peru has this flat spot here on the west coast. The reality I recall, it's rounded like this, like you see on the seafloor. But you can see, obviously, it's going to do that eventually here as well. But I started noticing it in some realities just a little bit, but it's pretty far in this reality. But you see that in almost every continent, like Africa. This indentation's not in every reality. In Australia, this indentation is not in every reality. I mean, this is a gulf, for crying out loud. It doesn't even exist in a lot of realities. This gulf, Joseph Bonaparte Gulf, doesn't exist in a lot of realities. The Great Australian Bight does in every reality. And Tasmania and New Zealand, albeit different locations. Again, that's not changing. It's impossible. Impossible. We're in a different reality. And it's helping us to understand what's going on with our lives. We understand now. But this is really, an interesting point. Look at how far it's literally 2,500 miles off from where we recall. Because, and also I remember, again, this is not going to affect our time zone or anything too much. But because North America, I recall it being like 3,500 miles across. And here it's only 2,500, if even that. Look at that, 2,500 miles from the widest point. Of course, the continent of North America is 3,500 miles maybe from say, this point to here. But I remember the United States being 3,500 miles across. But the state, it compensates in the states. You can see it. Look at how narrow the Dakotas are. It's remarkable. So the states remain the same and time zones are the same, but it's squished down a bit. Everything's compensated. I like to call that quantum compensation. But this will always be the division line right here for Eastern time zone, Central time zone. Again, like I said, most of Indiana's Central, but Michigan's all Eastern. So it's really weird being in the west side of the Eastern time zone. It's in the summer along, the summer equinox, the day, it's like goes to 11 p.m. before it gets dark. So it's strange being there because I was used to being on the eastern side of the Central time zone. So it's different. But again, that was all invented. In every one of my realities, I'm in the same spot. I'm in the same Eastern time zone. So it doesn't, I won't feel it. And I have no problem sleeping at night and staying awake all day. I never have. So that's why, But these people down here are going to have problems. They have to. Obviously, they do. I always wondered, you watch, like even in Mexico and Central America, they always have to have those siestas, and it was always blamed on the heat and everything. But in reality, it's because they have other portions of their soul and other replica versions of themselves in a completely different reality where the time zone is over here, simply because South America is over here. So it's interesting. Again, very philosophical. It brings up a lot of points, So anyway, I don't want to go digress too much, but it does explain a lot. I don't even know really what the title is video. South America and the Mandela Effect, or siestas and the Mandela Effect. You know what I mean? But it's a good point of philosophy. It's a good point, talking point. It helps us understand a lot of things, and that's what the Mandela Effect is supposed to be doing. I'm telling you, if you keep it simple, stupid simple, Yeah, and you look at the, you know, take it this for what it is, which is showing us we have multiple realities throughout the Milky Way galaxy in one dimension, and we don't have the, you know, I always talk about the, you know, the what is it? Oh, I can't think of it right now. The, the theory where there's, you know, where we do have the multiple realities, but they're in different dimensions. I keep trying to think of universal. It's not, but universal. Oh, I don't know. It just slipped my head. But the theory that we have multiple realities, you know, and that it's dimensional, but it's not. It's all in one dimension. Our realities are separated by distance, you know, not by dimensions. There are, of course, other dimensions, but they're parallel as well. Heaven, I like to say that heaven is parallel too, and it's important to realize that. You know, everything is parallel, including the spirit realm, including the souls, everything. So if our soul, which is the most incredible thing in the universe, is parallel, then we know that the angels' spirit is parallel as well. So every earth is going to have its heaven, if you will, and if like it explains a lot. Like look at Nelson Mandela when he died. In some realities, what happened to the portion of his soul? It obviously went to heaven or whatever, or into that realm, you know, in limbo. So it didn't go into some catch-all realm. It went into the realm that's part of this earth, the other dimension. Each earth has its own dimensions and realms and everything. Everything's splintered. So Nelson Mandela's spirit, where he died in those realities, remained in limbo until he passed away into these realities. This particular one passed away in a ripe old age. You know, those souls remained in limbo until these souls were in these realities were released from his replica versions of himself. Then every soul was in the spirit realm in each reality, and then it can go on and get rebirthed. It's not going to get rebirthed or reincarnated until they're all in they're each realm. You know, it's an interesting thought, isn't it? I mean, you go on and on, but the Mandela effect is allowing us to do that. We should be doing this. So, you know, again, I was concentrating on South America. It's so incredible. You know, they have realities in different time zones. So I thank you for listening, and we'll talk at you later.